Welcome to Chapter 12, Session 2. In this session, we're going to start adding some anchor tags to be able to make our links work with our project. Let's get started. So the project was looking pretty nice, except when you look at something like the Constitution, you want to see it as a nested list. You want to see it as an outline. It makes more sense that way. Having them all at the same level doesn't make sense. So we're actually going to walk through and build a nested list in our JavaScript. You're going to use your headings to determine which list level. So heading 1 will be at level 1, heading 2 will be at level 2, so on and so forth. Actually, it'll be level 0 because we're going to be 0-based. And we're going to walk through and determine. There is an if-else statement that is going to work in this project. And it's really important that you understand how the if-else works. There are 3 different possibilities when I get a new node. So a new child, a new heading that I need to deal with. If the heading level is the same as the previous heading level, it's a sibling. It can just be attached directly to the list item that I have. If it is smaller, in our case, if the head is going to be larger, which means it is a smaller heading, because we're going to start with H1 and move down, then I need to create a new nested list and add that as a child of my linked list, of my list item. So this is the case where if you start with an H1 and you end up with an H2, I need to go down. The next is if you are in a list and the current head, the new node that I get is a smaller heading, a larger actual heading, but smaller number. So if I'm at H3 and I need to go back up to H2 or H1, then I need to move up to a higher list. We're going to use those 3 if statements to determine how to build our list. It isn't just a one-shot thing. You have to look at all 3 possible items. This is sometimes called a state machine, figuring out what state you're at and what you need to do next. Given this piece of information, what do I do next? Given this piece of information, what do I do next? And what are the attributes that you need to keep track of to make sure that you build it correctly? Now, as you can see, this is what the code looks like as we have it here. We have our make outline where it creates the outline from the source and it adds everything that's a heading. But the funny thing is, outlines are usually tabbed in, so they have that visual kind of back and forth, and we really want to add that. We want to add different levels. So we are going to actually build a nested list dynamically using our JavaScript. You have to understand the logic of this one. And I went over it a little bit in the slide, so hopefully it kind of makes sense. There are 3 possible options. If my current head level is the same as my previous head level, then I know that the element should be at the same level. So I can just go ahead and append it to the current list. So I'm going to have a current list, whichever one I'm working on. If the head level is greater than the previous level, that means it is a smaller header, because these go in order. This is 0, 1, 2. So if it's greater, if I was at H2 and I got an H3, then I need to build a new list indented. Now, fortunately, these are all in order. So we don't have to worry about going and finding the old one. We can just say either indent or decrement. So if the head level is greater, then we're going to start a new list. Otherwise, we are going to append it to the list that was before the one we just did. We have to make sure that we get the right list in that situation. So let's go ahead and see if we can write some of this code. First thing we're going to do is set our previous level to 0. That's as far down as I want to go. And that's going to allow us to say, what level are we currently at? When we start, our previous level is going to be 0. That's where we start at. So we can use that piece of information. This code is going to hide right kind of in here. So we created our list element. We're going to create our list element same way either way. So that's not going to change. We need to say this if, else concept. So let's go ahead and start writing that. So if my head level is equal to my previous level. So when we start out, it'll be 0, it'll be the same level, it'll go ahead and put it there. Else, if my head level is greater than my previous level. Then we've got some code in here, else, here. I often find with else if statements, it helps to build them first before you start writing code. Then, of course, I like to put in comments. Append to the current list. Create new nested list and append to the higher list. Okay. When we are done with that, once we finish that, no matter what our head level or our previous level was, I want to now set my previous level equal to my head level. Because each time you go through this, you're going to want to include that option. I'm going to actually remove that one section there that says append, because we don't actually want to append anything, because we're going to do that inside of our if-else statements. Okay, your code should look something like this. Now we need to decide how to actually append the list. So the first one's easy. We're just going to write outline.append child, and we're going to append the child. Cool. If we want to make our nested list, our nested list is going to go in the second one here. So I'm going to create a variable for my nested list. That's going to be a new document spelled right, create element, and this is going to be another ordered list. We're going to go ahead and append our list item to our new nested list. So nested list, append our list item. Okay, so we have this new ordered list. It's got the new list element in it where it needs to be. Now we need to append our nested list in the appropriate place on our previous list. So previous list was our outline. So we're going to say outline. Now it's not going to be just appending it directly to the outline, because that would just make it the next item down. That isn't where I want it to be. I want it to be appended to the last list that was created. So I'm going to go to my outline. I'm going to go say, what was your last child? What was the last thing that was added to you? And your last child, I'm going to append this nested list to that. Okay. One more thing we have to do with our nested list. We have to set our new outline equal to our nested list to know that that's where we're at. So the next time we come around, we know where to add things. Okay. That's going to take care of going down the list. From the preamble, go down to the articles. From the articles, go down to Article 1. Or actually from articles to Article 1, from Article 1 to Section 1. Okay, now we need to go back up the list. So appending to a higher list. And actually, at this point, we can go ahead and run this and just see what it does before we do the third part. There. And you can see they keep going down. Now the problem is they're not coming back up correctly, which is fine. We knew that. But you can see that they do go down. So article to the sections, sections down to section 1s, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now we need to go back up. So in this case, I am going to say, if I get to this else point here, that means that I am not in the current list and I'm not going down. I need to go back up, which means I need to figure out which one to go up to. So far, level up, previous level, minus the head level. Now remember what previous level and head level are. Previous level is what was the current level that I'm at. Say I was at an H3. And what's my next head level for the current node I'm at? What if it's an H1? Then I need this to be 2. I need to go up 2 levels, which is fine. I just need to go up 2 levels. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and do a for loop because I don't know how many levels that's going to be. It could be just 1, it could be 2, it could be 5. So for I equals 0, I is less than or equal to level up, because I need to know how many levels I'm going to go up, and we're going to do an I++. Okay, so I need to set the outline equal to my current outline's parent node, and then the parent node of that. The reason we have to do 2 parents is because one of them is a list item and one of them is an ordered list. We need to go up to the ordered list and then go up to the list item and append it to the ordered list above that. So if you're looking at the current outline level is sitting at an ordered list, we need to go up to the list item and then up to the ordered list so that we can append the new list item at that level. That's why we had to go up 2 parent nodes instead of just 1. So going up to the parent of my parent. That will go ahead and allow me to append my child directly into that list. And in that case, we are going to go ahead and append our list element there and then set all of our items. Let's see what happens now. Ugh. For our for loop here, we want to go ahead and make sure that that is going up 2. And in this case, they had started at 1 and went up into greater than, I don't entirely know why. So I've just put it to 0 and level up. Anyway, refreshing it, you can see everything goes up and down correctly. We're able to get the articles in their correct sections, the sections correctly, and then our Bill of Rights. We can work with different attributes of our nodes. So the same way that when you build an element in HTML and you can give it an href, or you can give it a width, or you can give it a style, or you can give it an ID or a class, we can do that with JavaScript in our DOM. So we can go ahead and apply attributes. We can set attributes. We can get attributes. We can create new attributes. We can find out if attributes exist, all with each node. The attributes are not technically children of your node. Children is different than the attributes. The attributes are what describe you. So just like people, if I said your children were Joe, Mary, and John, that's fine. But your attributes are what is your height and your width and your weight and what is your age and what's your date of birth. These are attributes that go along with you. They are not your children. Don't get attributes confused with your children. The other thing to remember is that the attributes are not ordered. You cannot be counting on attribute 3 is always going to be my ID field. It's not. Attributes are never ordered. You want to use your get attribute with the attribute name to get the ones that you want. Don't try to just put numbers in there. You can find out if an attribute exists with the has attribute, and you can add both the ID and the class attributes to your node with your JavaScript. So if you have a new item, you can apply a class to it. You can give it an ID, and we're going to see how that works with this project. We need to create a list of ID numbers that we can use for purposes of linking. So if we come back over to here, you'll see none of these have any ID numbers. But we're going to want to be able to click something here and have it jump to a specific location, which means we need to add some ID levels so that we can reference them so we can make our links work correctly. Okay, we're going to go into our create list up here at the top, and we're going to create another variable for running total. I'm sorry, for our head number. And we're going to start it with 0. So our first header is going to be 0. And then we're going to running total this as we go along. Every time we add a new header, we're going to go ahead and increase it. Assuming we have a header, before we do anything else, we need to do some work here. So if the header level is a header, cool. I want to be able to increment my header level number first. So head num is going to be incremented. Really important to increment it there because we want to start with 1. We want to have our first header number be 1 for our preamble, but then we want it to increment every time we find a header. So that's fine. If our node, whatever it is, has an attribute that for ID, then we don't want to deal with you. So we only want to deal with this if you have an attribute, if you do not have an attribute of ID, which means if has attribute returns false. Yes, you could also do if not has attribute, and that would have worked just fine. Then we are going to set attribute of our node for ID equal to the word head plus our header number. So it'll be head 1, head 2, head 3, head 4 as we increment on. And we'll go ahead and be building these. So we're setting that on our actual node. Remember, our node at this point is over here. These are our nodes that we're dealing with. These are our ends. So we're going to actually be setting the ID attribute of that node. Then we can come down and create our list element and continue there. Let's make sure that worked. So if I hit refresh, I'm going to come back over to my F12. I'm going to go over to my elements, into my side, into my article, and you will see that it has added head 1, head 2, head 3, head 4, head 5, all the way down to the different articles. So we just added those. Those weren't there before. We created those. So we added ID fields to our project. Now we need to make the hyperlinks because we want these things to link. Okay. This line right here, where we are setting the inner HTML of our list item. We're not going to do that because we're not going to be setting the inner HTML to that. We are going to be using a article. I'm sorry, we're going to be using an anchor. Sorry, it started with an A. So we're going to create our list item here, and then we're going to build our anchor tag after our list item. So we're going to create our hyperlink. And we're going to plop our hyperlink inside of our list item. Okay, we are going to say our link element is going to be a document, create element, a tag. We are going to make our link element in our HTML equal to ends inner HTML. So the inner HTML of our node is going to be a text element and then a text. We are going to just grab that inner HTML, copy it straight across, and that'll be the inner HTML of our anchor tag. We are then going to set the attribute of our link element. We need to set its href. So we're going to do an href, and we are going to set it equal to hashtag, because we're going to be going to a specific place in this, n.id. So what is the ID of the node that we just created up here? It's going to be head 1, head 2, head 3, whatever they are. So we're going to say hashtag head 1, hashtag head 2, hashtag head 3. That's going to set the attribute there. Finally, we're going to go ahead and append it to our list element. Link element, list element. Try not to get them mixed up. So list element, append, and we're going to add link element into it. Let's see what that is. These are all now links. When I click them, it will jump to the place that I need it to jump to. So if I come down here and go to First Amendment, it'll jump down to the First Amendment. When we look, our elements here, inside of our aside, you'll see in our list element that our href is set to head 1. Our list item, our href is set to head 2. And we did go ahead and include that text correctly, so that's all good. Our outline looks great. So hopefully you learned a lot about being able to add in those anchor tags and be able to understand how the nodes work. Come back next time for session 3, and we're going to work with some style sheets.